There we go. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and just wait for people to filter in right now. Thanks everyone for joining. It's an always awkward kind of 10 seconds while people filter in. We never know how many people are going to, RSVP. All right. Okay, and with that, we'll just get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's press call. My name is Jack Miller, and I'm the Communications Director with Invest in America. Joining us today are two guests, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger and Jim Dow, Virginia's State Director for AARP. I want to thank them both for joining today. Our two guests will give their remarks up top, and then we're going to move to an open Q&A afterwards. If you have any questions, you can either type it in the chat or use the raise your hand function on the bottom of your screen. So for some context, right now the Senate is finalizing a reconciliation bill that would lower healthcare premiums by extending American Rescue Plan subsidies and lower prescription drug costs by giving Medicare the power to negotiate. If passed, the bill would be one of the most significant victories for middle-class families against skyrocketing drug prices in the last several decades. For those keeping track, it's been a policy priority for about 30 years. So on the ACA subsidies, according to the Center for American Progress, if the subsidies aren't renewed, Virginians will see a yearly increase of about $850 to their premiums, which is a 56% increase. It's also estimated that around 63,000 Virginians will become uninsured. For prescription drugs, the plan would save patients thousands of dollars per year, including for seniors and those with chronic illnesses. It would allow Medicare to negotiate the price of high-cost prescription drugs and would cap out-of-pocket costs for Part D plan members at around $2,000 per year. Needless to say, this would be life-changing for millions of families and those with high medical costs. So first, I want to turn things over to our first guest, Congresswoman Spanberger. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us. You've been pushing very hard for these two provisions in particular, so thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and hello, everyone. My name is Abigail Spanberger, and I proudly represent the people of Virginia's 7th District in the House of Representatives. And I really want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here to talk about this important issue, and I'm grateful to join this virtual stage with Jim Dow from AARP. Virginia. Certainly, having worked with Jim's organization, I appreciate all of his advocacy, not on behalf of one particular party or idea, but really purely, truly on behalf of Virginia's seniors and their families. So thank you for that, Jim. I appreciate it. And I'm glad to join this conversation because everywhere I go in my district, I hear from Virginia seniors who are impacted by skyrocketing prescription drug prices. Frankly, of course, across the board, the cost of prescription drugs is a primary topic of conversation and concern, literally everywhere I go. And I hear about how, in particular, seniors are being forced to make tough decisions, and this predates the pandemic. I hear about how they're struggling to balance costs at the pharmacy, the grocery store, the bank, the gas pump, and certainly the disruptions that we've seen in everyday life over the past 2 years have brought this to the forefront even more. People are waking up every single day having to make hard decisions about how to go about their day, how to live their lives, and how to ensure that they can afford the medication that they need, in many cases, to literally stay alive. And certainly, these are the personal experiences of Virginians. These are the stories that I hear across Virginia's 7th District, but I would imagine that you could go anywhere in the country and you would hear the exact same stories. And we should not accept these stories as the norm, not in the United States of America. And during this time that is marked by inflation, higher prices than normal, and just challenges across the board, we should pursue every opportunity to lower costs for the people that we serve. And that must include a focus on legislation to lower prescription drug costs, because frankly, as we're looking at the impact of inflation and the price at the pump on people's everyday lives, the fact that such an integral part of what it is that they are or are not buying is prescription drugs is a point of worry for so many people. And right now, I'm excited that we are really closer than we have probably ever been in making this a reality. For years, Medicare has been blocked, literally prohibited by law, from negotiating the prices that it pays to drug makers for medication. And certainly everyone on this call should know that frankly, this is by design. This is not a mistake that the pharmaceutical industry is using a loophole to set and keep prices high. And so that's why I've long supported giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices, literally the power to negotiate. It's so foundational. These reforms would drive costs down for Virginia seniors, but they would also save the federal government billions of dollars. I'm going to repeat, billions with a B. Over the next 10 years, thanks to reduced spending on drugs. So this policy represents a smart way to lower costs for Virginia seniors across the country, but it also will save taxpayers money in the process. So giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices is really about boosting competition. It's about saving money for some of our most vulnerable members in society. And it's about standing with consumers and not with massive pharmaceutical companies. Most importantly, it's also about responding to what the American people desperately want to see. A Congress that is equally fed up by the fact that Americans pay far, far higher drug prices than what patients in other countries pay for the same medication. And we know that Americans across the political spectrum support this policy. I should know because I have heard it from Republicans and Democrats and independents alike in my district. Everyone agrees that seniors should be able to afford their prescription drugs, not skipping meals because otherwise they can't. Lowering prescription drug prices is not a red or blue issue, at least it shouldn't be. It is just a priority that we should all get behind. So I'll remain a vocal advocate of taking action to lower prescription drug costs for hundreds of thousands of Virginians and millions of Americans nationwide. And I will be pushing my colleagues in both the House and the Senate to finally give Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices and give Virginia seniors peace of mind. So thank you to everyone who has joined us on this call. I look forward to the discussion and to taking your questions.
Great, thank you so much, Congresswoman. Next, I want to hand things off to Jim, who's a state director for AARP Virginia. Jim, thank you for joining us.
Jack, on behalf of AARP and our 1 million members here in Virginia, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. The number one issue that we hear about from our members across the state, across the country, and not just our members, everybody over 50 plus, is consistently over time and by far the most important issue has been the skyrocketing costs of their prescription drugs. I'm sure Representative Spanberger's experienced this, but there's this thing that happens when you get people in a room talking about this. Some folks start sharing their stories about unexplained and ridiculous increases in their prescription drug costs. It becomes like a competition that no one actually wants to win, and in the end, everyone loses. To build on some of what Representative Spanberger said, AARP did a survey last year asking Virginians over the age of 45 about how things are going in their lives in various aspects. And when it comes to prescription drugs, some of the findings are at the same time stunning and unsurprising. 1 out of every 5 Virginians over the age of 45 decided not to fill a prescription in the last year because of its cost. About the same number said they delayed filling a prescription for the same reason, or they took less than prescribed to make their drug last longer. 15%, so almost 1 out of every 8 Virginians over the age of 45 had to cut back on everyday necessities like food, like gas, like electricity, just so they could afford the medications they need to stay healthy. And there are big, powerful stories, even in small numbers. An individual who can't take the drug that they need has less of an opportunity to get and stay healthy. So not only is their health security compromised, but delaying treatment usually leads to worse healthcare outcomes, which can lead to higher healthcare costs, over the long term, and that leads to increases in things like taxes and premiums that everybody pays. That's why AARP has been working for decades to rein in the cost of prescription drugs. Fortunately, Congress is right now on the cusp of delivering meaningful prescription drug relief for millions of Americans. The reconciliation bill has 3 key priorities for AARP, some of which you mentioned. Number 1, finally, this bill would allow Medicare to negotiate with drug makers over the prices of their drugs. Number 2, it would cap those out-of-pocket costs for beneficiaries in Medicare Part D at $2,000 a year. And number 3, it would hold pharmaceutical companies accountable for raising their drug prices faster than inflation. These are provisions that not only, as Representative Spanberger mentioned, would save billions of dollars, but they're also overwhelmingly supported by bipartisan voters all across the spectrum of all ages. 20 years ago, the pharmaceutical industry got a sweetheart deal that has so far prevented Medicare from being able to negotiate with drug makers over the cost of the drugs that Medicare needs for the people it serves. And since then, the industry has been successful in fighting change at every turn. I got to say, we are particularly grateful for the continued commitment of leaders like Representative Spanberger, who we've seen out there talking with constituents at home and then working in the halls of Capitol Hill to fix this, despite repeated attacks from industry groups. Like I said, we're close. Congress is right there on the cusp of being able to deliver a monumental improvement for millions of Americans who are struggling to afford their prescription drugs. But we're not there yet. So AARP and our volunteers, we're going to keep pushing, we're going to keep working until this thing is passed and signed into law. So thanks again for having me and for listening to the voices of older Virginians.
Awesome, thank you, Jim. And so now we're just going to open things up for a quick Q&A. If folks have questions, again, you can use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or you can type a question into the chat. So we have one question already. It's from Alex. Alex from Bloomberg. Give me 1 second. I'm going to take you off mute and allow you to speak. All right, give me 1 second. All right, Alex, you should be good if you want to take yourself off mute to go there.
Yeah, thanks so much for taking the time. I wanted to, this question was, I think, both for Representative Spanberger and for Jim. I wanted to ask this question. A lot of these provisions don't kick in for a couple of years, particularly some of the key ones. Can I ask about, passing a bill that's going to have a lot of these kind of downstream effects and kind of how you bring that back to your constituents and talk to them about it, sort of saying, look, we want to do a lot of this stuff, and then sort of with the reality of the way it's sort of set up to come out, sort of kind of promise in the bill versus, how people will sort of see it a little bit down the road.
I guess I can start. I mean, these are provisions, again, that we've been fighting for decades. They should have been implemented years and years ago. We cannot let that be the reason why we stop this progress. That might be legitimately once in a generation opportunity to lower the cost of prescription drugs through the system, plain and simple. And we know that we'll see some things implemented over time over the next few years, and hopefully people will start to feel that more immediately. But again, fine. Let's not let decades of inaction and almost legislative sabotage prevent us from doing this now.
Yeah, and I would second essentially what Jim had said to some degree. The priority that I have in being responsive to my constituents is to lower the cost of prescription drugs. I think to Jim's point, we should not even be in a place where Medicare is prohibited from being able to negotiate prescription drugs. That in our capitalist nation is pretty extraordinary that provision was ever allowed to move forward. But right now the goal is to lower the cost of prescription drugs. And the process by which we get there is through this legislation. And certainly I'm, happy to go before my constituents and say, this is the legislation we passed. This is what's going to the president's desk. And it ultimately has the benefit of lowering the cost of prescription drugs for seniors across the country.
Thank you both. So if we have any other questions, again, you can use the raise your hand function, or Alex, I'm not sure if you wanted to have a follow-up because your hand is still up, not sure. But this comes to both of you. Seniors are often on a fixed budget, and spending more on medications means they can't spend on things like groceries and utilities. Can you tell us what this would mean for Virginia seniors immediately? So I think, Jim, you kind of touched on that a little bit in your examples there, but for both of you.
So if I can begin, and I'm certainly really appreciative, Jim has actually attended town hall events in my district where he has actually had the opportunity to hear from many of the people who are members of his organization, AARP, but also my constituents. So there's two things here. I hear about the cost of prescription drugs from Virginians, from 7th District residents across the board, full stop, every time I am out, anytime I am at an event, anytime I encounter constituents, right? And notably, particularly for seniors, particularly for those who live on a fixed income, it is a matter of being able to budget, right? It is a matter of being able to know that they can afford to stay healthy. And I think that in his opening comments, Jim made the comment that this isn't about just being able to afford medication. This is about being able to stay healthy and not siphoning your, cutting up your prescriptions or not taking it as prescribed and potentially doing damage to your health. Notably also with the $2,000 out-of-pocket cap, the idea that seniors and those on a fixed income would know that that is the cap that they would have for their out-of-pocket expenses is life-changing, because the worry of what happens the next time I go to the pharmacy, am I going to be able to pick up my prescription? That is what is so pervasive. And so to be able to know that we can bring down the cost of prescription drugs and also cap that out-of-pocket amount that would be life-changing for the people that I represent.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's a sense of security that people would have where they can understand. And again, I mean, prescription drug costs are still high. We're still operating at a large base, but there's a degree of control and reassurance that, we're going to see, at least more understandable, hopefully more explained increases to the drugs that they're seeing. It's an opportunity to get and stay healthy. It's an opportunity for some to get and stay on the job, to build their, retirement nest egg, to provide care for a loved one who needs it. Yep. I mean, that's what prescription drugs, allow. It's the most common way that we interact with our healthcare system on a day in, day out basis. I also want to touch on one of the points that you made, Jack, which is that, the reconciliation bill, does include funds that would prevent a massive premium spike for more than 3 million Americans that get their health insurance on the ACA exchanges. I think there are about 300,000 people in Virginia that do that. The vast majority, depend on those subsidies. And Jack, I think, mentioned a number showing the average hike of a premium if this thing isn't passed. But for those who are over the age of 50 but not yet old enough to qualify for Medicare, that's even steeper, because the ACA premiums are indexed to a person's age. So, without this reconciliation bill being passed, a lot of those people stand to see their premiums increased by a little more than $1,000 a year. This is life-changing.
And if I can make one more point, Jack, the other thing is we know that drug prices have really been a major contributing factor to the higher premiums that we see for Medicare, right? So we know that there's a particular Aduhelm, the Alzheimer's medication, right? Which when it is so expensive that it was largely the singular kind of cause of rate increases. And so recognizing that when Medicare has the power to negotiate the costs or the price of expensive drugs such as that one, that has positive impact across the board for those rate increases that do or do not exist because of the cost of these very, very expensive drugs. And so overall drug price negotiation is going to hold down price increases for seniors on Medicare. And that is vital for everyone, regardless, frankly, or in addition to the need for prescription drugs that they may or may not have.
And for folks, I will be following up with an email with those stats from Center of American Progress and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, just if anybody wants those facts and figures. We have one more question from Michael Marks. I know we're running up against time for a half an hour here, but from Michael, at one point, Senate Minority Leader was going to block a vote on the CHIPS Act if Democrats push the reconciliation bill to negotiate Medicare drug prices. The CHIPS bill just passed the Senate 64-33. I assume, Congresswoman, this is for you. Any comment on that vote or the prospect of passing the reconciliation bill next week?
So I'm going to first caveat my response, Mr. Bartz, with the idea that I can never reliably bet on what it is that the United States Senate is going to do. I have been on Capitol Hill a brief time, but long enough to know that. And so I think we're looking at various different priorities, right? The priority that we invest in American competitiveness, the priority that we pass this CHIPS bill, it is a national security priority, it's an economic priority. And I think that ultimately, thankfully, those priorities, the actual vital nature of this bill was what led to its passage within the United States Senate. Separately now, we will continue to pursue this legislation that will bring down costs that will allow Medicare the ability to negotiate the cost of prescription drugs. and really have meaningful impact on Virginia and certainly across the 7th district, across the Commonwealth and across the country. So I'm pleased that we are moving on all fronts, because certainly the health of America's seniors and their ability to be able to purchase prescriptions at the pharmacy should in no way be kind of tied with some gamesmanship of whether or not we're also meeting the moment of our national security priorities and our need to be independent of certain types of Chinese technology.
Great, thanks, folks. All right, it looks like we're all set for questions. Again, I just did want to thank Congresswoman Spanberger. Jim, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add something else. And I'm having one of those moments. I should have mentioned it earlier. So Representative Spanberger and I said that we hear about prescription drugs a lot. I mean, overwhelmingly, #1 issue we hear about. Obviously, this year we're hearing a lot about inflation. And what's interesting is that we don't often hear people, tying prescription drugs and inflation together, which absolutely should. A prescription drug should be the poster child for runaway inflation. AARP released an analysis last year that kind of looked at different everyday items and determined how much it would cost if their prices rose as fast over time as prescription drugs. So between 2006 and 2020, if a gallon of milk costs, the cost of a gallon of milk increased as fast as a prescription drug, it would cost $13 a gallon. A movie ticket would cost $24.31, and a gallon of gas would be $12.20. Imagine getting away with that for 15 years. So time is now. We've got to act. Again, I appreciate the opportunity for being here. Thank you, Representative Spanberger, for your leadership. Let's go finish this.
I look forward to voting.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, thank you, Jim. Those are very sobering numbers. So once again, I did want to thank Congresswoman. Thank you so much for joining us, Jim. Really appreciate your time. Folks, I'll be following up if people want a recording of this, or if, obviously with the Center for American Progress facts and figures, and I'm sure if you want to follow up with Jim about those numbers as well. So thank you everyone for joining us. Congresswoman, we can't wait to see you vote on this bill and pass it, but we really appreciate your advocacy and thank you for your leadership. So thank you very much.
It's going to change people's lives. I look forward to having the honor of voting for it and delivering a life-changing vote for so many of Virginia's seniors.
Fantastic. All right, everyone, have a great day and we'll be in touch. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.